IDA Amicus Award acknowledges the enormous impact of friends of documentary film who have contributed significantly to our industry. We are thrilled to honor Regina K. Scully with the 2020 IDA Amicus Award. It's hard to overstate the impact that Regina has had on our field. As the founder and CEO of Artemis Rising Foundation, she is dedicated to transforming our culture through media, arts, and education. She has supported over 200 films, including The Invisible War, Anita Speaking Truth to Power, The Hunting Ground, Newtown, Eagle Huntress, Dolores, Won't You Be My Neighbor, and The Great Hack, winning every industry accolade along the way. But perhaps what most defines Regina and her commitment to documentary is the fierce compassion she brings to every project and every aspect of her work. Her latest film is the lyrical news short, What Would Sophia Loren Do?, premiering on Netflix. Regina, congratulations, and thank you for all that you do. And now, to hear more from Regina about what inspires her to do this work, we are thrilled to present a conversation between Regina and Oscar-nominated and two-time Emmy-winning filmmaker Amy Ziering, whose most recent film, On the Record, is streaming on HBO Max. But first, let's take a look at some highlights of Regina's work.
Love or the lack of it.
Welcome, Regina. It's such a privilege and honor to get to chat with you, and I'm so glad you're being honored in this way. I can't imagine anyone more deserving, honestly. So congrats, and I'm excited to talk with you. So honey, how does it feel?
Well, first of all, Amy, thank you so much, because there's some real poetic justice here that it is you doing this intro and welcome of me and interview, and I just have such great admiration for you. You know that. We've been partners on a lot of projects, and I'm thrilled. I'm so honored. I mean, I'm really just so thrilled and honored to be here to receive this award. I couldn't be more, just thrilled by it all. Thank you. Thanks to everybody.
For those watching, I don't know. I mean, Regina is a force of nature and literally has single-handedly changed the documentary landscape. I mean, there's no independent funder who's made more of an impact, honestly, in the history of documentary film. So I can't think of a more apt recipient, and I'm excited that I have the honor to talk with you and share you with the world, and have everybody get to know how amazing you are. So, Regina.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you.
Thank you.
High praise coming from you. Thank you.
Why film? Like, you could do a million things with your life and your time and your passion. Why did you choose film?
I chose film as a means to reach a broad audience of people, to open their hearts. I think storytelling through film is one of the surest ways to the heart, not only to the head, but also to the heart. And I think it's one of the greatest ways to inspire people and to encourage people and to really present issues in a way that we not only, of course, engage people, right? Entertain, engage them, but really engage their hearts as well. And really a call to action. All of our films, certainly the ones we've done together, Amy, and the films that I've done with hopefully a lot of the people who are maybe tuning into this call, to this interview, they've all been a call to action. When the saying, when we know better, we do better. And it's about awareness and shining a light on many issues that were, buried deep. Our culture has a way of, silence, denial, and shame are the three ways to keep any issue buried. And as soon as we shine a light on that, on something that as they say, it's the secrets that kill us, right? As soon as we shine a light on things that need to be brought to people's attention, really to do something about it, then, things get done, things change, the needle moves, legislation has changed, behavior changes, cultural norms change. And that's why I chose film, because I think it's a forum, it's a platform that encourages change in all of these ways, in education, behavior, cultural, legislation. That's really why. And we've seen it. You and I have seen it. Many of our film partners have seen the needle moved on a lot of things that we care about deeply, that just didn't have the platform, didn't have the exposure. So that's, for me, film is absolutely one of the greatest tools we have in our storytelling toolbox.
And you don't shy away from the tough subjects. I mean, I noticed you have a very eclectic, impressive oeuvre, but you don't go for the easy films necessarily. And some of your films take a lot of courage. Can you talk about that? How do you make those calculations?
Well, I came into storytelling because I cared about an issue in recovery, and it was about sexual abuse. And so someone I love very much, and I'm close to, that I found out very late in life that he was harmed that way. And I just never knew it. I never knew why he went into self-medicating through drugs and alcohol. And it wasn't until I found out his story that he had been harmed this way as a young child. And that there was an opportunity to tell his story and other stories as well, and to bring this issue to light. And so, a lot of times people have cognitive dissonance. They have fears. They have, our culture just may not be at the top of our frame of reference. A lot of people they didn't even have the frame of reference for these kinds of issues, right? So that's why the storytelling allows room in a person's psychic, space and emotional space and heart space to hear things that they normally wouldn't be able to hear. And yes, and as a result of that, I've been very inspired to tell the stories that many people have been a little bit more reluctant to tell or unable to tell. And as soon as you open those opportunities for people to voice, as soon as you give them a voice, as you and I have seen, the floodgates open. And again, Amy, we've been doing this now. We're going on, over 10 years together. And where we were 10 years ago and where we are today, it's a lot easier, I would say, for people's stories to bubble to the top than it was, 10 years ago. Look at Invisible War, when nobody wanted to hear that the men in the military were being raped. Nobody wanted to hear that. And of course, you and Kirby were so intrepid in saying, no, we won't tell this story unless we can include that in the overall narrative. It's so important. And of course, we wouldn't have supported it otherwise. So, we have to take those bold steps forward and just take a leap of faith and say what we have to say. And it has to be that these stories have to be told. Once they air, once they see the light of day, and they're far less oppressive than when people keep them bottled up. I think that we all have seen this time and time again.
What I also love about you is you're not one and done. You're in it for the long haul, and you see the importance of repetition. Can you talk a little bit about that? That it's not like we did Invisible War, the work is done. Then you started funding The Tale. And I mean, you do so many brilliant films in the trauma and abuse space, made by a whole wide array of filmmakers. Why do you think it's important to keep going on the message and stay in the fight?
Right. I believe in aggregate quality storytelling, and telling it with different voices and telling it in different ways, in different tenors, and it's this, how when we were in school, we could all be studying the same subject matter, and one teacher we hear and another teacher we don't. Right? So it happens. So we just, people have different vibrations, narratives have different feelings, and so where one story may not have the agility for a certain set of ears, another one will. There's always a way in, right? And there are many ways into a heart, into a soul, and into our psyches. And so I'm interested in many, many pathways and many, many voices and many, many storytellers. But again, it's aggregate quality. The common denominator is that they're all quality and they're all authentic. And they all are a call to action and they inspire. And again, as you know, I am a huge proponent of stories that have fierce compassion and storytellers that are fiercely compassionate, because it takes that's what it takes to deal with a lot of these issues. It takes that. You have to dig down deep, and it has to be something that you want to change so much and you want to make a difference so much that energetically and stylistically and content-wise that it moves the needle. So yes, I do. And I believe that there's room for a lot of stories. And you're right. The Invisible War, The Hunting Ground, On the Record, Athlete A, Audrey and Daisy, Roll Red Roll. I mean, my God, The Rape of Reese Taylor. Please, the list goes on and on and on. And how many stories did we have to leave on the table because we couldn't get to all of them, even at the rate that we produce them and get them out into the world, onto school campuses, out into the legislation floor, social media. Even at that, right, we can barely keep up. But we have to do it. Although I will tell you, and you know this, and I laugh, but even my husband, once in a while, my husband does say to me, oh gosh, Regina, are you ever going to make a comedy ever? And so when I tell him, yes, we're getting there. We're inching our way to stories that have a little bit more humor, because you know what, humor is also a very important tool in the world of recovery, as you and I know too. So it takes all types of stories to do this, but we have absolutely focused on some very, very, very tough issues, because that's the only way to break through the cognitive dissonance around a lot of these issues.
And
So
the decade of misogyny and rape culture that have allowed them to proliferate. I mean, that's a hard.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Hard,
that's a tough
ideology.
That's a tough glass ceiling to break.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. But it's really about, we see this is why television is so powerful too, is because when we see these stories, 80% of all learning is visual too. That's the other reason why I'm so into film and film education, is because when we can't be what we can't see, we all know that. And when we're hearing things and seeing them visually and seeing them told from all different angles, from all different shapes, colors, and sizes and genders, it starts to sink in, and it takes time. It takes time for people to shift the collective consciousness. It takes time for that to make a shift and to break through cognitive dissonance and to really aim for the heart and capture not only the mind, but also the heart and spirit. And then and of course we see the divine results of all of that.
Well, one of the things I learned from you really early on that stuck with me, I remember you said to me, and you'll say it more eloquently than I will, but you said, Amy, I'm really committed to this topic because everyone in this room either is a survivor, knows a survivor, or knows a survivor, and they just don't know it and never will.
No, that's right on. You have a great memory, Amy. One of the greatest portals of transformation is through trauma. It is the silver lining for all of us human beings on the planet. We're all going to go through something. And so it is through the portal of trauma, broadly defined, and everyone's on that wheel of trauma transformation, I call it. we're all on it in different areas, but it, the only, once we're through it, we're never the same. We have enormous opportunities and potential to move forward, to really evolve, both individually and collectively. And it's true, because I always say it's one of three things, no matter how small the group or large the group. It could be you and I talking, you and I at a dinner party for 8, or you and I in a stadium of 50,000. It doesn't matter the number. It's always one of three things. It's either happened to you, happened to someone you know or love, or it's happened to you and someone you know or love, and you just don't know it yet.
And your point then was, and if we can do this work, which just does a little bit to take away the pain and the healing and help the culture move forward and recognize how it doesn't have to be complicit with these crimes, you said our world would be completely transformed. It is such a primal trauma in so many lives. And that's why, you articulated to me, this was so important to you.
Yes, absolutely. I just realized that, and I'm sure many people in our audience feel the same way. I mean, look at our world at large. Trauma, it's what we go through individually, on smaller to larger scales, or even larger scales. Look what's going on in our nation now, even with the virus, politics. So there are lots of levels of trauma, but if we find our way through it, which we will, and most people do, or at least that's our goal, right? As human beings, we have such an opportunity to transform and evolve and be better. And I always say, going through trauma is like if anyone has renovated their home, it is like taking your home down to the studs. And when you do that, and you go through the drywall and you go down, that's when you get to really rearrange the plumbing and the electrical. And if you want to move the staircase, you move the staircase. It's not when we throw a coat of paint on the wall. It's going down to the studs. And that is the opportunity, the real opportunity for transformation. And so that turns me on. That's something that I, am very committed to, with my time, my energy, and my resources. I'm interested in real transformation. I'm interested in renovating down to the studs.
And you're always interested in turning a burden into an opportunity. You always remind me, when I'm down or doing dark work, you're like, there's a path through it. And there's that just what you said, that trauma is obviously horrific, but there is a gift there if you look for it. That's what I love about you, is that you're constantly, I know as a filmmaker working with you as an executive producer, you're always just completely offering us, at least, a different perspective that lightens our burden and lifts us and sort of encourages us to just move forward and keep the faith. And for people to know, you're also very correct. You don't blink. I speak from us, we take on really hard topics, and you've just been unflappable. We've been through a lot, not all pleasant, but, I so admire, because other people might not have had that, had that strength or commitment. So I want to say that, because I don't know what people know about you or know, but it's not,
Thank you, Amy.
It's not just a, you're in the trenches, in the foxholes, and with all your filmmakers, and we love you and appreciate you for that.
Thank you.
I want to say,
thank you so much. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me.
Thank you.
Because I think that the storytellers and the filmmakers that I've had the honor to work with, and it's been many, many of you. And, like I always say, it's I who am grateful to you. I owe all of you. We, the culture owes you all really an enormous debt of gratitude, because it does take an intrepid spirit. It is a courageous spirit, and a fiercely compassionate spirit, and an empathetic spirit to go in and tell these stories,
What would you most want to share with filmmakers, from all that you've learned, from all the wisdom you've called making all these films, for filmmakers coming up, for filmmakers out there working in the documentary field? Is there any wisdom you were like, I
think if I were to share some of the things that are most important to me about filmmaking with up and coming filmmakers, or anyone interested in this field, is number one, to really really go after the things and the issues that are most important to you, to really just know your values and know what's important to you, and also to find your voice. It's a really extraordinary thing to watch people find their voice, cultivate their voice, not be afraid to say what they feel, what they're going through, what they've been through. So I encourage people to really dig in deep and sit with themselves and just say, wow, what matters to me? And where do I want to make a difference? And how can I make a difference? And then really being honest and authentic about their own voice and telling it and doing it in a way that really honors who they are and what they believe in, and stay true to themselves. Because I think that that's the essence. When the best projects are, if you distill it, it always distills down to a nugget that's authentic and has elements of empathy and compassion and humor and just a real original authentic voice at the heart of it. Because those are the films, right, Amy, when we really get the films that resonate for us, the stories that resonate for us, they're the ones that really kind of make us stop in our tracks and feel things, think about things after the fact. The movies that after the movie we're thinking about them. And it could be a very, it doesn't mean it has to be super complicated, but they are the films that give us food for thought and that move the needle and that make us look at things not only with our head, but with our heart. And that stir us to maybe do something about it. I call them DNA changers. They're the films that literally change our DNA on a cellular level. And that happens, and you're not the same person you were after having watched it. Those are the films that are just blow my mind.
Speaking of joy and family, you made a beautiful new film. I want you to talk about that and tell us about it. I was blown away when I watched it.
Thank you, Amy.
How did you come to make that film?
Thank you so much for asking me. I have to tell you, as you know, we've done a lot of heavy lifting, you and I, and many of my colleagues on this call with very, very heavy, intense issues. And I just had the opportunity in this last year to work on a film with my 83-year-old Italian American mother, who's just full of wisdom and always has been. And I was very blessed to have a set of parents the way I do. And I even knew as a little girl that I had to share. I had to share her. No one gets a mom like that and a dad like that and doesn't share. It's not possible. And so it's just been on my mind. And she, raised me with a saying. She would say to me, whenever she needed to sort of yank me down to earth and remind me of my values, she would say, Regina, what would Sophia Loren do? And it was sort of our code for, just remember who you are at your core. Remember what's really important in life. Remember, your friends and what you who you really are, basically. And so we made this short documentary, What Would Sophia Loren Do? And it is so special and charming. And, Sophia Loren is a part of it, and it's wonderful. I don't want to give it away because there's a beautiful surprise in the film. Netflix really saw it and, just fell in love with it for a lot of reasons. And they've just been amazing. And anyway, it's going to air on Netflix Friday.
Wow.
Today. Today. So today at 12:01. Oh my God, it's already happening. Wow. It's already happening. Wow. And
a documentary short, everybody should know.
It's a documentary short. It's, of course, I'm sure everyone knows about the wonderful Sophia Loren film that's out, which is The Life Ahead, which is extraordinary. I mean, my God, it's just, and her son, Eduardo Ponti, did an amazing job on it. And then our short film, which because of COVID and all the delays, they never would have come out at the same time otherwise. So there's an amazing silver lining. Ross Kaufman, the director, Robin Honan, the producer, did an extraordinary job on this film. We had a wonderful time collaborating. And what I love about this film is here you have these two women, my mom 83, Sophia Loren 86. And really what bubbles up in this film, yes, it's charming, it's funny, it's got everything, it's delicious. The film is just scrumptious, right? but at its heart, what would Sophia Loren do has love, resilience, and joy at the heart of it. And both of these women have been through a lot in their lives. And it just really shows, it's such a testimony to inner strength, feminine wisdom. And there's a lot in it. It's got a lot of depth, and it's quite profound. And yet it's, very, very sweet and charming. And it's uplifting. Quite frankly, it's just, so nice to watch something like that too. There's so much going on in our world right now that it's a nice respite. So I'm very proud. I probably sound like I'm an advertisement for it, but I'm just super proud of it. And it's been a real gift. It's a love letter to my mom, and all that she's done. And really to the people in our lives, whoever they are, whose wisdom we've been able to utilize and help us get from one point to another, all the shoulders that we've stood on to get where we are in life. That's also what this film is about. It's a thank you. It's a love note and a thank you note to those people in our lives who've made all the difference in the world.
It is a gem of a film. It is a labor of love. It is also a shout out to a documentary you helmed early on in your career called Misrepresentation, because it is about the power and import of strong female representation in cinema.
Absolutely.
Images in the world around us, right?
Absolutely. It absolutely speaks to that film.
Okay, so thank you, IDA for honoring Regina and hosting this event. Thank you, Regina, for doing all you've done for so many filmmakers and for society at large. I mean, it's hard to describe, how profound your impact and influence has been, your vision and leadership has been, and your radiation of this fierce compassion has sort of, empowered so many of us and inspired so many of us to put these works in the world. So thank you, and enjoy these honors and enjoy good health and stay safe and wear your mask and all good things.
Yes, thank you, Amy, and thank you, IDA, and thank you to all of our colleagues, right, Amy, who do what you all do. Yeah. Because we all know it takes a village, and we all need each other, and the collaboration is really where all the joy comes from, right?
Yeah.
And I'm really thrilled and honored. Thank you. And to have this interview with you is personally extremely special to me. Thank you.